What's poppin', y'all? This is definitely something that is going to and has already shook up the entire streaming industry in particular, because it's been a little bit of a black box how much money these people made. Even for me, I knew it wasn't until a year ago that I discovered how much streamers could make from the ads. Before that, I thought like ads were negligible because 2017, 18 around there, and even before, people really focused on subs, and they were like, oh yeah, subs, that's how you support the streamer, this and that. And there were incentives, of course, for the viewer to sub up, but subs is also how Twitch made their money, because they would take a cut of the subs. But I think that Twitch was always making their money from ads, and I'm not sure if they started sharing a greater percentage. But Moist Critical, also known as Penguin Zero, he decided to stop the donations and the Twitch subscriptions on his Twitch account. He would stream as well. He was originally a YouTuber, but he became a live streamer sometime in around 2019 or so, and he started streaming on Twitch. And this sent some shockwaves. There were people that were saying like, oh, he's just doing this to look good, which I'm like, I don't believe that, and I'll say why I don't believe that later. But he explained it, and he explained why, and I'm going to play you guys that clip right now.
Why I'm disabling any and all means of people having the ability to donate money to me. No more super chats, no more YouTube memberships, for all intents and purposes, no more bits on Twitch. I say all intents and purposes because you can't actually fully disable that on Twitch. Once you start streaming on there, you're shackled to the bits ecosystem. It cannot be turned off. So I made the minimum so high that no one can pay it, hopefully, and actively discouraging people from subbing on Twitch as well. Any and all avenues where people could just give me clams, I am just putting the kibosh on. I should have done this a long time ago, but better late than never. Might as well get the farty sharded now. The reason is super simple. I would much rather you keep your money. Use it for yourself or use it for things you deem important, whether it's charitable causes or what have you. But just stop forking it over to me. Now, since posting that video, there's been a lot of questions and even somewhat of a pushback from other streamers about how, like, this sets a bad precedent where it, like, starts to shame other streamers if they don't follow my footsteps here. Let me be clear. I'm not trying to make a rallying cry here. I'm not your dad. You do what you want with your own streams. Keep donations and subs on out the wazoo forever. I don't care. That's your prerogative. This was just my own personal decision. Obviously, that wasn't like the most prevalent take or anything, but it is a conversation I saw stirring about after I posted that video, because there are some streamers that believe that normal people having the ability to give them money helps them feel included in the community, part of the crew, part of the ship, and it's like integral to the streaming experience to be able to like sub and donate and things like that. I've never really shared that perspective. I've always viewed streaming as content that you are providing to viewers for free, and if someone's nice enough to toss you a doubloon, you tip your fedora saying, "Holly jolly, thanks for the Reddit gold, kind stranger," and move on. But it's not an obligation, and no one should feel like they need to be able to give you money to be included in the community. That feels very parasocial to me. But that's just my...
This is a perfectly fine take for him to have. However, you could understand why the other streamers would feel that way, because it makes... People are going to look at them, especially because this guy, he's really normal. He's not really going to offend anybody. People call him a quote-unquote fence sitter, but I think he's just genuinely a guy that, of course, he doesn't want people to hate him, but he gives his opinion, and he's just chill. That's just how he is. And I think in his perspective, and keep in mind, he said for me. He's like, I don't have a problem with you doing it. He didn't say it's bad that people allow themselves to make money off of this or for the viewers to give them money. He just said the way that I felt about streaming is that it's just something that you do for fun. And originally, that's how it started. People just used to, like, if you guys remember sites like Stickam, like Ustream, even the early, Periscope. There was another one, I don't even remember. IG Live in the beginning, like, it was not a money-making thing. People just streamed for fun. And most of those sites were more like IRL, just chatting type, you could call it. But Twitch was mainly gaming. And he just wanted to chill, stream, interact with people. And the fact that this is gaslighting, by the way, which other streamers were saying that no, they have to keep it on because allowing people to give them money is... It's a weird way they tried to explain it, but he was like, no, it's a part of the ecosystem, and you're harming someone by not letting them give you money. Now, first off, an individual, this is the thing too, where I disagree with him, or I disagree with what he believes will happen. He's thinking, or he said that, well, if someone doesn't donate to me, just keep your money. Just keep it, donate it to a charity or something else. What's going to happen is somebody that is generous enough to sub to somebody, donate to somebody, they're not going to say, oh, well, I'm going to stop doing that and I'm just going to donate money to charity instead and I'm going to keep my money. No, they're just going to give it to someone else. So really, he's helping people, if anything. But a lot of these other streamers, they need to seem relatable, and they need to, and a lot of them that are somewhat political, talking about like, oh, these rich people, yeah, like it's so hard, the normal person has to struggle, and these rich people, and then if people find out how much money they make, then that's a different story. And especially like for example, like people like Hassan, he will talk about how, it's rich is so evil. And then people will cope for him and say, well, like he exists in the system. So is it wrong for him to make money? People give it by their own volition. It's like, sure, that's a decent way to try to beat that argument. But when you have an example of somebody like this, who is not like Hassan whatsoever, and doesn't say that making or being a billionaire or whatever, either way, like someone that makes 50 or 100 million and someone that makes a billion, there is no difference. There is absolutely no difference. There is 100 times of a difference between a person that's making 50K and a 500K than a person making 50 M's and 50 billion. Unless you're really, really seeking political power, then that's a different story. But now, since this guy turns it off, they're like, well, this guy has the option to turn it off too. And he could have them donate to causes that they're against. Now, I'm not saying Hassan should stop doing that or whatever. I think the guy believes what he's saying. And this isn't about him, but a lot of streamers, they get away. I don't like the word they get away with, because I do not want the context of this to seem that I think it's bad that streamers ask for subs, get subs, or get donations. It's people are generous and they want to do that. And this is this guy's opinion. However, what does shake things up is when you open the black box, and that is the revenue. And this guy showed all of the revenue that he's made in his life from streaming on Twitch and YouTube, which we'll get into later. But I'm going to play you guys the clip of where he shows Twitch first.
Partnered and everything. So from 2017 to 2019, I made $55,500 for those 2 years. And I wasn't full-time streaming at this point or anything. It was just a bit of goofing around, having some fun, and it brought in $55,500. From 2019 to 2021 is when I took it a lot more seriously. As you can see, my time streamed went from 600 hours on the 2 years to 3,600 hours, and I made $1.2 million for those 2 years. And this was before my Twitch contract, so the only ads that were running on my stream were like the pre-roll ads, the ones that Twitch would insert themselves. So this was still without ads, by the way. $1.2 million, almost 1.3. Then I got a Twitch contract which necessitated a certain amount of ads, 3 minutes of ad time per hour. And from 2021 to basically 2025, I made $4.1 million. And to those astute observers amongst you with those keen peepers, you might notice that my subscriptions are less than half of what they were for the previous 2-year period. So even though I have 180,000 less subs across these 3 years than I did for the previous 2, I still made significantly more. And that is because of ads. Ads are the breadbasket to streamers. That is the jelly to the peanut butter sandwich that is streaming.
Oh my goodness, this is gargantuan. Like this amount of loot that this guy's sitting on? Oh my God. I just had to stare at this. I was like, damn. Sitting in, our lives aren't very different, right? Like this guy's he's in a room, he's playing video games, he's chilling in there. Granted, he's probably in a bigger room, in a bigger house. I'm in a basement, which is technically a room. It's at my mom's crib, but hey, I'm not paying rent. He's paying rent, so technically I'm probably winning in this scenario, right? Is that a decent cope? But yeah, the amount now what shocked me was the amount that this guy made from ads. If I had to guesstimate before this, and you told me like, yo, what do you think Moist Critical made in his Twitch career? I would say an M. But the fact that he made 5 and the amount that came from ads, I was like, whoa, this is shocking. And then there are certain streamers that y'all probably watch, DDG, cough, cough, where they are, even Kai Cenat when he was doing the Mafia-thon, they are spamming ads. So these, I don't even want to imagine how much Kai Cenat made. But this scares a lot of streamers. They do not want this leaking. And it's understandable why they don't want this leaking, because it's like when Joe Budden and academics were on Everyday Struggle together. Joe Budden was perfectly happy getting paid what he was paid. I think they were getting paid $17,000 a month or something like that. At that time, Joe still had his podcast, but maybe it wasn't racking in. Definitely wasn't racking in what it's racking in now. But he was happy with that. And then they added a Spotify sponsor, I think. They added some sponsors to the Friday show, and they wanted them to come in for an extra show. And when Joe Budden was completely happy when he saw the amount of money that the sponsor paid Complex, and he saw the amount of money that him and academics were getting. Academics said this out of his own mouth. He said it was never the same. He completely switched off. And from then on, it was the beginning of the end. So with fans, supporters, etc. of streamers, when they see this, they know the amount of money that the streamer is actually making. Because before that, people would do some calculations. Like they'll say, okay, this person's got 10,000 subs, let's say $3, right? Like let's say they got a 50-50 split. Okay, that's 30 grand. And they've got some donations here, maybe another 5 G's in donations. That's 35K. And then maybe another 5K in ads, right? That's how I would have guesstimated. Okay, they're making 40 bands a month. And that's without any other platform, sponsors, etc. It's like, wow, that's a very, very good income. But that's not enough for somebody watching to say, whoa, this person is out of this world. Seeing how much ads can give is out of this world. It blows my mind. I'm like, whoa, no wonder that turbo might really be worth it if we're keeping it a buck. The turbo is that thing where you pay like $11 and you don't get ads on any Twitch account, I think, which used to just be Prime. If you used to have Amazon Prime, you wouldn't get ads on the whole site. But hey, that was then, and this is now. And he once again explains this. Once again, what did he say? He said it doesn't feel right to him, and he is not even a top 20 streamer.
This is solely through just Twitch itself. And I think something important to mention, contrary to popular belief, I am not a top streamer. I am also not even a full-time streamer, and I haven't been for over a year and a half. So my 2025 earnings, I didn't really put them here. It's about 100K. So another thing to add to the total here. But I'm not even a full-time streamer anymore, and I haven't been a top 20 streamer probably since Among Us boom. Back in the prehistoric internet age now. Like, the Among Us era is the only time where I broached, like, the top 20. I've not been in that ball game for a while, and yet this is still a crazy amount of money, where there is no reason I should be taking money from just normal people working normal everyday jobs. It just doesn't feel right to me.
So consider how much money the top 20 streamers are making. And let's take this. So from January 2021 to December 31st, 2024, right? That was 1,461 days. He made $4.1 million, and he streamed for 6,044 hours. So let's actually run some quick maths on this, because we're going to break this down. So in this scenario, Charlie, Moist Critical, he was earning $687.90 an hour. And keep in mind, he streamed for about 6,000 hours. Now, if we take a look at, we're going to do two people, right? Two opposing people, just because we don't have any type of bias towards either of these people. But let's just take a Hassan, right? Especially somebody that talks about money being evil and all of this. Well, not specifically money being evil, but, anti-capitalist, whatever you want to call it. He has streamed for since 2018. That's when he started streaming on Twitch. He has streamed 19,000 hours. 419. So 19,419. So if we just take the rate that Moist Critical was making and we give him, Hassan, the same hours, what we get is a whopping, you don't even want to see this number, 13,358,000. And keep in mind, this is assuming that Hassan was making the same rate as Moist Critical. And well, Moist Criticals, it's a little bit inaccurate because it's not solely from ads, the money that was calculated. It was also from subscriptions, etc., of which Hassan would get more ads because he's averaged far higher viewers. He's a top 20 streamer. He has far higher subscription count, and he gets far more donations. So all of that put together, come on now. This guy Hassan has probably made close to at least 50, if not no, because then there's YouTube to add to this as well. Hassan's made at least 100 M's for sure. Certainly, yeah, at least 100 M's because he's 10 times bigger than Charlie, Moist Critical, Penguin Zero. And that is a scary amount of bread. But once again, I think the issue here is a second example would be XQC, who has streamed 23,000 hours, and he's streamed since 2016, I think, or maybe even before. Actually, even before that on a different account, I think. But when he first, let's just say 23,667 hours, which is more than Hassan. So that's at least like 4,000 more. So if we take his and we multiply it, you get a whopping 16,280,529. And keep in mind, XQC throughout his career has averaged higher viewers than Hassan. There was a period for a year straight, maybe even 2, where he was averaging 100,000. So you could probably multiply this number by 10. Like XQC's maybe even 200 M's. And you got to take into consideration that XQC also took the deal with the casinos, and he's making disgusting money. That's why when people are like, yo, when Kai Cenat talked about going band for band with XQC wanted to die laughing because it's unreal. And one of the reasons that Moist Critical said that he didn't want to take more money was because he felt streaming was the easiest job. So I'm going to play you guys that clip right now.
Streaming is the easiest job there is. Hot take, I know, sorry, that was a blistering, scalding magma that I just spewed out there, but it is just the truth. I sit in swamp for a few hours every day, well, at least I used to when I was a full-time streamer, playing games, or just yapping. Now compare that Weenie Hut Jr. routine to a normal person who is actually working their ass off every single day in a 9-to-5 environment, grinding in the hopes of chasing the American dream. And then they'll come home, maybe turn on my stream and donate a couple of dollars to me. And it just doesn't sit right with me taking that kind of money, given what I've made from all of this. And I really should have just stopped this a long time ago.
This is where I have something to say about it and where I have to disagree. Because streaming, and keep in mind, he's talking about his own personal situation. He's saying, well, for me and a lot of these other streamers, I get on here, I talk, I play some video games, and I made this amount of money. It's insane. Like, people are doing this, and he doesn't feel that he's special. He doesn't feel that he's offering something special. He doesn't feel like he's differentiating himself. He feels out of his own mouth that he just got lucky. So I think his scenario is very different from an individual or individuals like, let's say, FaZe right now, right? Or, well, these guys actually got corporate funding from a billionaire that's funding a lot of their stuff. But let's take somebody like a Kai Cenat who doesn't have that. Now, Kai Cenat is sponsored by corporations who partner with him, but it's not like, oh, Kai Cenat's organization, AMP, is 51% owned by a billionaire who is financing everything that he's doing. He's financing it himself. So for Kai Cenat to run his Mafiathon and to hire all of the staff and to pay all of these clippers and for him to house people and get certain people visas and make sure everybody is fed and get that house and pay for all of these celebrities' appearance fees, the ones that charged appearance fees to come and show up and get all this camera equipment and all of that. Yeah, that's going to cost money. So there's no issue. And like DDG, right? Like DDG spent a ton of money on that love show that he did. I think he spent at least $250,000. So these guys, unlike Moist Critical, which is not to take away from him, but these guys, they are spending a lot. There's production costs, there's employee costs, there's travel costs, and I think it's perfectly fine for them to ask for people to sub up, even though DDG has even said that he just makes his bread off the ads. And that's why you see people like DDG just sleeping on the camera. Or when you saw in the beginning of the year, DDG was going on such a crazy run, just like he was going on a wild run, to say the least. And he was just streaming hours upon hours upon hours until he burnt out. Well, he must have been eating like this. That's probably why he stopped caring about rap and rap numbers. He's looking at people, and this is also partially why he doesn't care that his album flopped, quote unquote. He's like, okay, well, you want me to sell 100K and make a M? If that, why would I do that when I could just make a M in 2 weeks? Or less, streaming, which is far less work and way easier than doing music and costs way less. I don't gotta have to do all these splits with producers and whoever else was writing on the track. And by writing on the track, I mean like whether it's producer or the co-writer / feature. So it makes a lot of sense. But one thing that he also opened the box to was his YouTube earnings, which I felt like it was good to close the video on that one as well. And I'm gonna play you guys that clip right now.
Huge number, an unfathomable amount of money. From starting this channel in 2007 all the way until today, I have made $35.8 million. I never even imagined that amount of money was possible to earn without just being born rich. I have said from day one, I got incredibly lucky. I will never be able to put into words just how lucky I got with all of this here. I'm not special. I got lucky. I have always said that, and I still believe that to this day. Now, something I saw a lot of people asking after the video I made about turning off all the donation stuff is how much money I'm leaving on the table. And while it's kind of hard to show it on Twitch considering both subs and bits are technically still on, even though I discourage both and have bits at a point where I don't think it's even possible to use them, I still can't get like a hard number on what's like gone now or anything like that. But on YouTube, I can show you directly. So with memberships and supers / gifts, I made over $1 million. Keep in mind, I've only had those things enabled for about a year.
This is some crazy YouTube earnings. And this is why it's so funny. I've said this in the past. Really, if you're super tapped in and you watch all my stuff, you might remember when I've said it. I've said it maybe twice where I said exactly how much Sniper Wolf made to the T. And I know it to be a fact. And people were like, man, you really think Sniper Wolf made that much? Think. I know. Sniper Wolf made this guy's like this 36 M's near. Let's round it up to 36 M's. Sniper Wolf made that a little bit less, maybe 33 in like 2022 or 2023, I think. She made 33 M's. Sniper Wolf throughout her career, just off of YouTube, has made close about like 200 M's. Let me just say that, let's round it. 200 M's she's made. And that's without anything else that she's done. And that's in partnership with her former boyfriend / business partner. But this is a huge number. And this guy, shout out to him, he even said like, yo, I turned off memberships and all of that. I don't want people to give me money. But this is another thing where it gets into this argument, if you want to call it that. Well, why doesn't he just turn off ads too, right? Like that's a possible thing to do. You could turn, maybe not on Twitch because they force it, but you could theoretically turn off ads and demonetize yourself on YouTube. I think that would harm his reach. He's one of the biggest creators on there. So I think YouTube wouldn't be too happy about that. But if he wanted to make no money, he could. But I think he just looks at it like, well, people giving me money, I don't feel okay with that. But people giving me their time, I feel a type of way, or I don't feel a type of way about that because they're spending their time watching the ads. Other people, like for me personally, right? I'd rather give money. I'd rather sub. If I watch a channel frequently, especially, I'd rather sub than watch the ads. I'm not sitting there through a 3-minute ad. Hell no. I'd rather, my time is worth more to me than a couple of bucks. However, I can understand like if someone's younger, they're just like, all they have is time. So their time isn't worth as much to them. And my inclination is that this guy grew up with bread. Now, I think he went to a private school. I don't know if he got a scholarship to go there or whatever, but he's also a college graduate, and he started YouTube really early. So I think he was a teenager when he started making videos for fun, and he never went into the real world, and I don't think he struggled financially as a kid. Because anybody I know, and this is where I got to give DDG credit. We talk about, and we make fun of DDG here and there about him being really into money, but he talks about it. He came from the gutter. When you come from the mud and you were broke and you went through poverty and you were instilled with a poverty mindset, that doesn't really leave you. I think there was a book I read or a speech that I listened to years ago where somebody was talking about how one of self-made people's biggest fears, self-made millionaires, is going back broke. And how do you go back broke? Well, you don't make an income. So even if someone's touched an M, 5, 10, 20, 100, they're like, what if this all falls apart? What if this all falls apart and I go broke? And I think somebody that grew up without the financial stress on top of them constantly, and seeing that financial stress in their parents, if they were fortunate enough to have two, that's something you can't really shake. Like, you wouldn't just turn off income. Now, they may stop working as hard, but to turn off a stream of income for no reason at all, you didn't get any backlash for it, it doesn't serve any purpose other than you, I guess, wanting to feel better about yourself, that's difficult. I don't think it's possible for somebody that grew up in poverty to do something like that. And that's not to say or to knock him for having grown up well or anything. I wish more people grew up well off, to be honest. I wish I grew up well off. But I will say that I understand his feeling, because I feel the same way about like sales. So for example, like I've seen a lot of these funny memes, you've probably seen them, where the car salesman is like, yo, just sold a single mother of 3 into this package with this interest rate. Like, it basically hit a lick on the lady or any individual. And part of sales is like, okay, can you sell this product? I cannot. I physically would be unable to sell a product to somebody that I know it's not good for and that it wouldn't help. But when you're in that job, especially if you work for a company, you have to get good at that. Otherwise, you're taking food out of your mouth. You're like, hey, sir, yeah, I don't think this product is good for you. You know, it wouldn't help you. You can just leave. No, you're getting fired, or you're not going to perform very high. So and I don't think people that are good at sales and do that are evil. Now, the whole like, yo, this is a lick, I'm going to take advantage of them as much as possible, I do think that's predatory. I can't even attempt to try to reason with that or rationalize that. But someone that's like, I really want to sell this vehicle or whatever, a knick-knack, whatever product that they're selling, I get it. But I just couldn't do it. And that's where I think he's coming from, where he's like, yeah, I get these other streamers doing it, but I just feel bad every time someone does that for me. So I think this is harmless, what he did. Like, I don't think it harms the people that want to donate to him, because I think they just understand. They're like, oh, okay, cool. And they were just trying to support him anyway, or like show some love. Or some people, they just donate just to get shown up on screen, or, like a flash of recognition. But yeah, let me know what y'all think in the comments. Like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell if you enjoyed. And I'm going to see y'all in the next one.